Welcome again, dear students. The new lesson of our series, Traveler 4, Module 3, Lesson A, Grammar, introduced to you by Al-Cad Private Schools through the distance learning system. I am Mr. San, and I'm gonna accompany for some time discussing and receiving your comments and questions. Today, dear students, we're going to study grammar. The grammar we have today entitled Infinitives and ing forms. And the word infinitives comes here in plural form, so we can get that we have one more than one infinitive. And actually we have two forms of infinitive today. Here we have full infinitive, as you see, which means 2 plus base form of the verb. We call this form as full infinitive, while the other one is bare infinitive, as you see, which is just a base of the verb without 2. So today, here we're going to discuss when we can use bare infinitive and full infinitive in sentences. So he starts with some sentences, as you see, with exercise A in this table. If we discuss sentence number 1, which says, the teacher or moderator encouraged the language learner to analyze what and how he or she wants to learn. And as you see, the word to analyze is highlighted here, and also the word or the verb to learn. I will know how and why we use these forms of these verbs. 2. Virtual classrooms usually use a type of chat room to practice oral communication. 3. It is interesting to learn language through tandem email. For 4, I do not know how to search for a worksheet. And last, 5, have you got enough money to buy this laptop? Across these sentences, students, we can notice here we use full infinitive to analyze and the full infinitive to learn, and all the sentences we discussed right now containing full infinitive. Actually, we're going to know how and why we use these verbs in this form. So we have some rules down, why and when to use a full infinitive, and I have to remind you that full infinitive is 2 plus base form of the verb. Here we have some cases to use full infinitive down. A, to express verbs. B, after certain verbs like want, would like, who, decide, learn, and etc. We have more verbs, but we will discuss them later with the grammar review. Right now, after some time, we will show them together. C, after the adverb to and enough. D, after this phrase, it plus be plus adjective, like it's good or it's harm to use a knife or etc. E, after question words like who, what, and how, etc. Here we have a note down. The book says note that use the bare infinitive, which is base without to. After most modal verbs like can, could, must, may, should, and etc. As the expression would rather and had better. Also, after the verbs like let and make in the active voice. Here we ask it to use the bare infinitive after these two verbs. Okay, here we have the other form, ing form, and let's discuss some example illustrating this form. Let's see example number 1. What about installing a multimedia program? Sending emails. Changes provide a very fast, immediate way of communicating, as you see. Number 3. Learning is generally more individual and self-directed. For 4, Ian is considering attending a virtual classroom. These examples containing an ing forms, and let's know the cases where and when we can use ing form. So the example says, number 1, what about installing a multimedia program? Why we use the ing form here? Let's discuss the points down and discover or point out when to use this form. For A, as a subject, like example. Number 3, here we have learning generally, so learning here works as a subject. B, after certain verbs like enjoy, finish, avoid, imagine, and etc. Here we have more verbs, and as I told you, we will discuss them later with the grammar review. For C, after certain expressions like how about, it is no use, it's what, and etc. And finally, after some prepositions like for, of, and etc. So if we revise these examples down again, we can distribute these cases down around or through these examples like this way. And I think it's so clear here. These points express or illustrate when to use ing forms. For back again, here we have these examples. Here's the answer. So after reviewing these points, you will know how or when to use for infinitive and here for bare infinitive. So it's clear that we're asked to use different forms of the verb, maybe as for infinitive, bare infinitive, and ing form. Okay. And now, dear students, for grammar reference, I think you can find it on page 79. Here we have the case when to use for infinitive. The for infinitive is used to express verbs, and here we have an example. I went to the post office to post. Here we have the verbs. I went to the post office. For what or why? The answer is to post. So it expresses verbs. To, after it, plus be, plus adjective, as I said. Here we have some expression like this. It's nice. It was stupid, like this. Here we have an example. It was great to see you after such a long time. After certain adjectives like afraid, surprised, free, happy, ready, sorry. The example says at last he was free to do what he wanted. And next here we have after to and enough. The example says Larry is too tired to go jogging today. And the other example says it isn't warm enough to go to the sea yet. Then we have after certain verbs like these verbs as you see between brackets. Afford, agree, appear, decide, forget, who, learn, manage, need, offer, plan, promise, refuse, seem, tend, want, would like, and etc. Here we have a simple example said, I hope to see after the certain verb or after the verb who, which requires fall infinitive that falls. And then here we have after the adjectives of certain verbs like advise, allow, encourage, invite, order, persuade, teach, and tell, and etc. The example said it was Glenn who persuaded me to apply after the adjective. And finally, after question words, as I say, like how, what, when, where, etc. Here we have an example: declaring or illustrating this point, I don't know what to do. For bare infinitive case, we can use it in some places, like after modal verbs, as I said, can, may, must, should, etc. Here we have an example illustrating this point: you should start thinking. After should, we use start. Here we have a bare infinitive: start thinking about your future. After the verbs like make, until, in the active voice. In the past, it's different somehow. The example: my parents let me stay up later at weekends. The students let me stay up. Like other example: our teacher made us retake the test. So after made, here we have retake. The last one here, after would rather, had better, and I think we discussed this point in the first semester. The example that we have here says, I'd rather stay at home today. And the last one, you had better tell me. Not these forms of the verbs, they are in the bare infinitive case. The last case we have for ing forms, we have some points, as you see. Number one, as the subject, as I told you by the start of the sentence, exercising is a good way of keeping fit. 2, after the verb go, balak, indicating physical activities, like we often go fishing. It's physical activity, right? And the summer, after certain verbs, some verbs that should be followed by ing form: avoid, enjoy, finish, like, love, hate, imagine, keep, rest, spend for time. Because this verb can use to spend something else like money, but for time should be followed by ing form. Suggest, consider, and etc. Here we have a simple example down. Martin suggests going to the museum on Tuesday. After certain expression like, as I said, be interested in, can stand, don't mind, how about, and it's no use, it's no good, it's worth. There's no point, can be followed by the preposition in, and be used to, and etc. And here we have more. For example, it's no use trying to do everything yourself. Ask your dad for help. And the last case here, after prepositions like for, about, without, and etc. We have an example declaring this point: I'm so excited about going to university next year. And now, the students, after preview and pointing out the role we have today, let's go to workbook for some exercises. Here we have a simple grammar exercise. The exercise consisting of 7 sentences with 2 choices for each and maybe more. Number 1, here we have the choice to lend, form infinitive of the form of the verb lend, and lending ing form. Money to run was false if you actually as a subject we would choose ing form. I'd really love to, the verb love should be followed by ing form, but the modal verb would declaring or saying that we have to use can. I think we should prevent bare infinitive from cheating. That's right, cheating. 4, I don't remember to meet or meeting you before. Actually, ing and the verb remember has 2 cases, and I'll point out this later. Actually, for number 5, we were checked to hear that Pusher had an accident. Marcia always wanted to become after the verb want. And finally, I want to apologize for, the preposition for should be followed by ing form. And by then, I'll listen today. Thank you, and see you again for further lessons, dear students. Goodbye.